I stand in the center of my kitchen, fingers tracing the cool granite countertop I've dreamed about for years. The afternoon sunlight streams through windows I chose myself, casting honey-colored patterns across hardwood floors that took me 3 months to select. 10 years of 60-hour work weeks, of canceled vacations and brown bag lunches, all crystallized into this moment. My 4-bedroom colonial on Maple Street. $650,000. The price tag that made my colleagues gasp when I signed the papers last month. The number that represents a decade of overtime and sacrifice. My sanctuary, my achievement, mine alone. I take a deep breath, savoring the lingering scent of fresh paint and new beginnings. In an hour, friends and colleagues will arrive for the housewarming party. For now, this quiet moment belongs just to me. The doorbell shatters my peace. Too early. I smooth my dress and check my watch nearly an hour before anyone should arrive. Through the peephole, my stomach drops. My father, Richard, stands on the porch, his arm around Linda, my stepmother of 20 years. Behind them, Vanessa hovers, her practiced smile already in place. I hadn't invited them. Hadn't even told them I'd moved. My fingers fumble with the lock, muscle memory from childhood taking over. Always answer when Richard calls. The door swings open. "Sienna," Richard booms, as if we speak weekly instead of twice a year. His hug is stiff, perfunctory. He smells of the same aftershave from my childhood, the scent that used to mean safety before it became the smell of goodbye. "Quite a place you've got here." "We drove by last week and saw the moving truck," Linda explains, not waiting for an invitation before stepping inside. Her gaze sweeps the entryway, cataloging, assessing. So much house for just one person. Vanessa follows, trailing expensive perfume and judgment. "God, Sienna, you must be making a fortune these days." Her eyes measure the space like she's calculating square footage. "When did finance get so lucrative?" "I've been saving for a long time," I say, the understatement of my life. "Would you like some coffee? The kitchen is this way." Richard follows me, immediately zeroing in on the appliances. "Sub-Zero refrigerator, Viking range, you didn't cut corners, did you?" His tone makes it an accusation rather than a compliment. "What's the property value in this neighborhood?" "Dad," I say, the word still awkward in my mouth after all these years. "Why don't we catch up first? I haven't seen you since Christmas." But Richard is already opening cabinets, peering into my pantry. Linda joins him, whispering something I can't quite hear. I catch only the tail end. "Told you she was holding out on us." My chest tightens. I turn away, busying myself with coffee preparation while memory crashes over me like a wave. 10-year-old me pressed against the living room window, watching Richard's car disappear down our street. My small hands leaving smudges on the glass, as I waited for him to change his mind, to turn around, to choose me. The birthday cards that stopped coming after Linda entered the picture. The Christmas I spent alone with Mom, when Richard chose Vanessa's dance recital instead. Mom working 2 jobs to keep our modest apartment while I learned to cook dinner and do my own laundry. The night I promised myself I'd never need anyone again. "Sienna, Earth to Sienna." Vanessa snaps her fingers in front of my face. I asked if there's a bedroom on the first floor. "No," I reply, returning to the present. "All 4 bedrooms are upstairs." "4 bedrooms," Linda repeats, exchanging a look with Richard that makes my skin crawl. My goodness, planning for the future, are we? Before I can answer, the doorbell rings again. Relief floods through me as colleagues begin arriving, filling my house with genuine warmth and congratulations. I circulate, accepting housewarming gifts and showing off the renovations I've planned. But Richard, cornering me in the kitchen an hour later, ruins any sense of celebration. "We need to talk about your finances," he says, voice low. "You must be making twice what you reported on your taxes last year to afford this place." I nearly drop the plate I'm holding. "Excuse me?" "Your sister is having some trouble with housing right now," he continues, ignoring my shock. "Her landlord is selling the building, and with the baby coming." "Vanessa's pregnant?" This is the first I've heard of it. Almost 3 months along, they need a stable situation and quickly. The way he says it, the entitlement in his tone makes my blood run cold. I notice Vanessa across the room, her hand not on her stomach like most expectant mothers, but on my living room wall, as if measuring it for her own furniture. Emma from accounting appears at my elbow, sensing my discomfort. Sienna, can you help me with the wine? I can't find the opener. Her eyes telegraph understanding as she leads me away from Richard. For the rest of the party, colleagues create strategic interruptions whenever my family approaches. By the time the last guest leaves, Richard, Linda, and Vanessa have already gone, but the cloud of their presence lingers like smoke. I lock the door behind my final guest, double-checking the deadbolt. Something tells me I should install a security system sooner rather than later. 1 week later, I'm sorting mail when my phone lights up. Richard's name on the caller ID sends a chill through me. For a moment, I consider letting it go to voicemail, but old habits die hard. Hello? Sienna. His voice is falsely warm, the tone he uses when he wants something. We need to talk about family responsibility. I sink into my sofa, suddenly exhausted. What's on your mind, Dad? What he says next stops my heart. It's about Vanessa and the baby, and your house. I think it's time you did the right thing for your family. I slam my car door, keys still dangling from my fingers, and freeze. My world tilts sideways. My possessions, the carefully chosen furniture, the neatly labeled boxes, the life I've built lay scattered across my front lawn like debris after a storm. A floral sofa cushion rests against my mailbox. My grandmother's antique lamp teeters on the edge of the sidewalk. Books I've collected since college form uneven towers on the grass. 2 men in moving company uniforms haul my dining room table through the front door. Stop! I sprint across the lawn, designer heels sinking into soft earth. What are you doing with my things? The shorter mover sets down his end of the table. Ma'am, we have orders to clear the property. Orders? From whom? This is my house. My voice rises and I feel the weight of eyes watching from neighboring windows. Mrs. Wilson peers from behind her curtains. Across the street, Mr. Peterson stands on his porch, openly staring. The mover produces a clipboard. Work order signed right here. Removal requested by homeowner Richard Matthews. I snatch the paper from his hands. My father's name leaps from the page, along with what appears to be my signature accrued forgery that doesn't even capture the loop of my S's. White-hot rage burns away the shock. I march toward my open front door, stepping over scattered picture frames and shoeboxes. Ma'am, if there's a dispute, the mover calls after me. There's no dispute. This is my house. I don't look back. I push through my own front door and collide with a reality that doesn't make sense. Strangers move through my sanctuary, like they own it. A man I don't recognize measures my windows. 2 women discuss paint colors in my kitchen. And there, in the center of my living room, stand Richard and Vanessa. My stepsister hangs a garish oil painting over the spot where my carefully chosen black and white photograph had been. Richard supervises like a construction foreman, pointing toward the ceiling. Perfect height, don't you think? He says, not acknowledging my entrance. Dad, the word scrapes my throat. What the hell is this? Richard turns, his expression revealing no surprise, no guilt. Sienna, I thought you'd be at work until 6. Clearly, I step forward, trembling with rage. Why are strangers removing my belongings from my house? Vanessa runs her hand over her stomach in a theatrical gesture, though her pregnancy barely shows. We're just getting settled, Sienna. The movers needed space to bring in the nursery furniture. Getting settled? The words come out strangled. Richard waves his hand dismissively. We've decided this is best for everyone. Vanessa needs stability for the baby and you. Get out. I cut him off, my voice deadly quiet. All of you, get out of my house right now. Richard sighs like I'm being an unreasonable child. Sienna, be reasonable. Family takes care of family. Before I can respond, a police officer appears in the doorway. Everything all right here? We received calls about a disturbance. Officer, I say, never taking my eyes off Richard. These people are trespassing in my home and removing my possessions without permission. The officer looks between us. Ma'am, do you have proof of ownership? I pull out my phone, fingers shaking as I access my secure files. Here's my deed, closed last month, my name only on all documents. The officer reviews the screen, then turns to Richard. Sir, I'll need you and everyone not on the deed to vacate the premises immediately. The next 30 minutes blur as the house empties. The movers apologize profusely when they see my documentation. The random strangers friends of Vanessa's apparently link out with mumbled excuses. When only Richard, Vanessa, and I remain in the driveway, my father steps closer, his voice a harsh whisper. You're being selfish, Sienna. Vanessa needs this more than you do. You forged my signature, I say, holding up the moving company paperwork. That's a crime. It's what family does for family, he insists. Like breaking the law is reasonable when it benefits his preferred daughter. A silver Lexus pulls up, and Linda steps out, her face arranged in what she probably thinks is a conciliatory expression. Sienna, dear, let's all calm down and discuss this reasonably. You knew about this, I realize, seeing the guilt flash across her face before she masks it. You all planned this together. We only want what's best for everyone, Linda soothes. Vanessa's face crumples on cue, tears streaming perfectly down her cheeks. I have nowhere to go, Sienna. Think about the baby. The neighboring doors open. Mr. Peterson emerges with his phone visible in his hand. Mrs. Wilson stands with her arms crossed, watching. Their presence feels like unexpected reinforcements. A familiar car pulls up, and Emma from accounting steps out carrying 2 coffee cups. She surveys the scene with quick, assessing eyes before coming to stand beside me. Everything okay, Sienna? She asks, but her tone says she already knows it isn't. They broke into my house and tried to move me out, I explain, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. I recorded the whole thing. Mr. Peterson calls from his yard, from the moment the moving truck arrived this morning, just in case it might be needed. A locksmith's van pulls up behind Emma's car. I took the liberty, Emma explains quietly. Thought you might need new locks today. The locksmith approaches, a kind-faced man with gray hair. Had a sister-in-law try something similar with my brother's place years back. Family, huh? Sometimes, they're the ones you need the strongest locks against. As Richard, Linda, and Vanessa reluctantly retreat to their cars, I realize I'm not as alone as I thought. That night, after the locksmith changes every lock and a security company installs a state-of-the-art system, I sit alone in my living room. My possessions are mostly back inside, though chaotically arranged. Order will come tomorrow. I pick up an old photograph from the 14-year-old me with Richard. Before he left, before Linda, before Vanessa. I trace the smile on my younger face, a smile that believed in family. My mother's voice echoes from years ago. Family should lift you up, not tear you down. For a moment, doubt creeps in. Am I being selfish? Should I have offered some compromise? Then I remember Richard's dismissive wave. Vanessa hanging her art over mine, Linda's calm assumption that I would surrender my home, the coordinated deception. No, some boundaries cannot be compromised, especially with those who see you only as a resource to be harvested. I place the photo face down in a drawer and close it firmly. My phone buzzes against the kitchen counter, interrupting my Saturday morning coffee ritual. Vanessa's name appears on the screen, a rare sight that immediately puts me on alert. We need to talk alone. No Richard. No Linda. Just sisters. I nearly choke on my coffee. In 31 years, Vanessa has never once referred to us as sisters. Not when she was getting the college fund I never had. Not during the holidays when Richard showered her with gifts while I received practical afterthoughts. And certainly not last week when they tried to commandeer my home. Cornerstone Cafe at 2 p.m., I reply after careful consideration. Public. Busy. Safe. I arrive 20 minutes early, selecting a table near the exit with clear sightlines to the parking lot. The barista nods in recognition. I've been coming here every Sunday for years to review spreadsheets and savor their dark roast in peaceful anonymity. Vanessa arrives 15 minutes late, floating through the door in designer sunglasses and carrying a purse that could pay a month of my mortgage. So much for the desperate housing situation Richard described. She scans the cafe until her eyes land on me, and something in her usual confident posture falters. Thank you for meeting me, she says, sliding into the seat across from me. Her voice lacks its usual edge of superiority. What do you want, Vanessa? I keep my hands wrapped around my mug, creating a small barrier between us. She glances around, checking for familiar faces before leaning forward. What I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this table. I make no promises. Something flashes across her face, desperation, maybe before she takes a deep breath. My boyfriend isn't the baby's father. The statement hangs between us. I say nothing, waiting. With Vanessa, the first revelation is rarely the whole truth. He had a vasectomy 2 years ago. Her voice drops to a whisper. He doesn't know I know. So you're pregnant by someone else and lying to him about it? The pieces don't quite fit. Vanessa's perfectly manicured nails tap against the table. It's more complicated than that. Explain. There are 3 men who could be the father. She says this with the same casual tone someone might use to discuss dinner options. Each one thinks they're the only possibility. I feel my expression harden. And let me guess, each one is financially supporting you while you string them along? Her smile is small but unmistakably proud. Child support from 3 different men is better than from one. It's just math, Sienna. The cafe noises recede as I process this information. The calculated precision of it all makes me sick. This was Linda's idea, wasn't it? Vanessa's eyes widen slightly. How did you? Because this has her fingerprints all over it. I lean in. What I don't understand is why you need my house if you've got 3 men bankrolling you. Vanessa stirs her untouched latte. Mom's been teaching me since I was 13. Men are wallets with legs, she used to say. She states. In college. Dates? Escort work. Vanessa shrugs as if discussing summer jobs. Nothing traceable. High-end clients. Cash only. Dad never knew. I tried OnlyFans for a while, but the market's saturated. Each revelation lands like a physical blow. Not because I'm shocked by Vanessa's choices, but because I'm finally seeing the full picture of the family Richard left us for. The baby is insurance, she continues. Men will gladly pay for 18 years to preserve their reputations. But we need something permanent, something that can't walk away. My house, I say flatly. Your house, she confirms. Mom says property is the only security that lasts. Men leave, money disappears, but real estate holds value. I wonder if Richard knows that his wife views him as a temporary resource. Probably not. Vanessa's expression suddenly shifts, softening into something almost sisterly. Look, I'm just asking for temporary help. Once everything settles with the baby, we can work something out. The pivot is so smooth, I almost admire the technique. Almost. No. Dad will never forgive you if you turn me away, she says, her voice gentle but the threat crystal clear. Family takes care of family, right? I'll pay you back, I swear. I'll be eternally grateful. I see the exact moment Vanessa realizes her usual tactics aren't working. Her eyes harden, the false vulnerability evaporating like morning dew. This is why your own father couldn't love you, she hisses, mask slipping completely. You're cold, selfish, incapable of understanding what family means. I understand exactly what family means to you, Vanessa. A resource to be exploited. She stands abruptly, knocking her coffee directly into my lap. The hot liquid seeps through my clothes, but I don't flinch. You'll regret not helping family when you needed it, she spits, loud enough for nearby tables to turn and stare. Don't come crying to us when you're alone with nothing but your precious house. I remain seated as coffee drips from my blouse onto the floor. The cafe has gone quiet, all eyes on our drama. Vanessa storms out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. The barista hurries over with napkins, concern etched on her face. Are you okay? Fine, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. Just family business. In my car, hands shaking, I record every detail of Vanessa's confession on my phone. The manipulation, the lies, the scheme to take my house, all of it preserved in my own voice. My phone rings. Richard. I let it go to voicemail. Sienna, what the hell did you do to upset Vanessa? Call me immediately. I end the recording and start the car. This isn't about hurt feelings anymore. This is about systematic deception, and the truth needs to come out, but strategically, on my terms. I composed the first email to my attorney before pulling out of the parking lot. Subject: documentation of ongoing harassment and attempted property fraud. The time for playing defense is over. After 30 years of letting Richard and his real family dictate the terms of our relationship, I'm finally ready to fight back. I slide into the dimly lit neighborhood bar, my practical heels clicking against the worn wooden floor. The scent of beer and decades-old cigarette smoke clings to the air despite the smoking ban enacted years ago. Richard sits in a corner booth, his broad shoulders hunched over the table. 3 empty glasses form a neat row before him, a silent testimony to his mood. The bartender catches my eye, her gaze flicking between me and Richard. She raises an eyebrow in silent question. I give her a small nod. I'm fine, I've got this. After the house invasion last week, I'm done with private confrontations. Public places mean witnesses, cell phones, safety. Richard doesn't stand when I approach. His eyes, my eyes in an older face, narrow as I slide into the booth across from him. You've turned your back on family, he says without preamble, fingers tightening around his 4th drink. The amber liquid sloshes dangerously close to the rim. After everything we've done for you. The laugh that escapes me holds no humor. Everything you've done for me? That's what we're calling 30 years of absence now? My purse sits heavy against my side, containing neatly typed notes I prepared last night, dates of missed birthdays, holidays spent waiting for calls that never came, graduation ceremonies attended alone. I don't reach for them. I don't need them. These facts are carved into my bones. This isn't about the past, Richard says, his voice a controlled rumble. This is about Vanessa needing help now. Your sister. Stepsister. I correct. My voice steady where his trembles with poorly contained rage. And what you're asking isn't help. It's surrender of everything I've worked for. Family sacrifices for family. The words sound rehearsed, a mantra he's repeated to himself on the drive over. I lean forward, resting my forearms on the table between us. Would you have given up your home for me at any point in the last 30 years? When Mom was working 2 jobs to keep our apartment? When I needed braces but we couldn't afford them? When I worked nights through college to avoid crushing debt? His silence stretches between us, a canyon of unspoken truths. Then, predictably, the deflection comes. That was different. Your mother made her choices. He drains half his drink in one swallow. This isn't about us. You're right about that much, I say. This is about a pattern. You've shown me exactly who matters in your world since I was 10 years old, watching your taillights disappear down our street. I was inconvenient, disposable, and now I'm suddenly valuable because I have something Vanessa wants. Richard's face flushes. You have no idea what it's like having a child depend on you. Actually, a voice interrupts, I'd like to talk about that dependency issue. We both turn. A young man in his late 20s stands beside our table, his hands jammed into the pockets of a worn leather jacket. Something about him strikes me as familiar, the jawline maybe, or the nervous set of his shoulders. Richard straightens, confusion creasing his brow. Do I know you? I'm Jake, he says, then clears his throat. Jake Marino, Vanessa's ex-boyfriend. Recognition clicks. I've seen his face in Vanessa's social media posts from last year, always in the background, always looking at her with the same devoted expression. What are you doing here? Richard demands, his tone shifting from confusion to hostility. Jake shifts his weight, glancing at me. Are you Sienna? I found you through your company website. I nod, cautious interest replacing my initial wariness. Jake turns back to Richard, squaring his shoulders. And you're her father? I am. Richard's voice hardens. And whatever you have to say about my daughter can be said to me directly instead of ambushing us in a bar. Fair enough. Jake pulls out a chair from a nearby table and sits, creating a triangle between us. I think you should know that I had a vasectomy 2 years ago, medical records to prove it. Which makes Vanessa's claim that I'm her baby's father a bit of a problem timeline-wise. Richard's face goes slack. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that Vanessa isn't just claiming I'm the father. Jake's voice remains steady, almost clinical. She's making the same claim to at least 3 other guys. We figured it out when one of them saw us arguing outside her apartment and approached me afterward. I watch Richard's face drain of color as Jake continues. We compared notes. Jake pulls out his phone, thumbs through it, then places it face up on the table. She's been running a pretty sophisticated operation. Each guy gets a different due date, different story about complications, different financial emergencies. Richard snatches the phone, scrolling through what appear to be screenshots of text conversations, his hands shaking visibly. This can't be right. Call her, I suggest quietly. Ask her directly. Put it on speaker. With trembling fingers, Richard pulls out his own phone and dials. The ring echoes in our small circle of silence. Daddy? Vanessa's voice, honey sweet, fills the space between us. Did you talk to Sienna? Is she going to... Vanessa. Richard cuts her off, his voice unsteady. I'm sitting here with Jake Moreno. The silence that follows speaks volumes. Then comes Vanessa's voice, high and panicked. Jake is lying. Whatever he told you. Who's the father of your baby, Vanessa? Richard asks, each word dropping like a stone. Her voice rises, words tumbling over each other in desperate explanation. Richard's face contorts as 3 decades of carefully constructed reality crumble before my eyes. When he finally hangs up, Richard looks older than his 58 years. His shoulders sag as he stares at his hands spread flat on the table, wedding ring catching the dim bar light. I didn't know, he says finally, his voice barely audible over the background noise of the bar. I never thought. He drags a hand over his face. Linda always said you were difficult, that you rejected us, that you were cold, like your mother. I say nothing, watching as the father I once idolized confronts the possibility that he's been manipulated as thoroughly as he tried to manipulate me. Do you? He hesitates, then asks the first genuine question about my life I can remember hearing from him in 30 years. Are you happy, Sienna? In your life, I mean. The question catches me off guard. Part of me wants to seize this moment of vulnerability, this hairline fracture in his defenses. Another part, the 10-year-old still waiting by the window, remains wary, protective of the life I've built without him. I'm content, I answer finally, my tone measured. I've made peace with many things. But not all things. Not yet. The unspoken words hang between us. I never expected to invite Richard back into my home. Yet here he sits at my kitchen island, hands wrapped around a coffee mug, looking smaller, somehow diminished by the revelations about Vanessa. The silence between us stretches thin as spun glass, fragile and transparent. My phone buzzes for the 6th time this morning. Vanessa again. She's been texting me too, Richard says, glancing at his own phone. Claims Jake is lying about everything. Says he's just bitter about their breakup. I slide my phone face down on the counter. She sent me 12 messages yesterday, each one more desperate than the last. Richard's jaw tightens. He's aged 10 years in the past week, the lines around his mouth deeper, his eyes clouded with doubt. I keep wondering what else I've missed, what other lies I've believed. I study him carefully. For 30 years, this man accepted every story Linda and Vanessa fed him. Why the sudden clarity? Linda's yoga classes, he says suddenly, staring into his coffee. 3 times a week, like clockwork. 7 years now. Something in his tone makes me look up sharply. You think she's lying about yoga? I don't know what to think anymore. His laugh holds no humor, but she comes home without that post-exercise glow. No yoga mat. And last month she left her phone on the counter. A text came through from someone named Marcus about seeing her Thursday as usual. The admission hangs between us, heavy with implication. 3 days later, I'm parked across from a mid-rise apartment building in Oakwood Heights, 15 miles from the yoga studio where Linda claims to spend Tuesday afternoons. My hands rest on the steering wheel, camera ready on the passenger seat. The building's glass entrance reflects afternoon sunlight, making it easy to watch without being seen. Linda's silver Lexus pulls into a reserved space, not a visitor spot, a resident space. My heart pounds as I lift the camera. Through the zoom lens, I capture Linda stepping out, checking her appearance in the car window. She's wearing a form-fitting dress, not yoga pants. Her yoga mat is conspicuously absent. A man emerges from the building entrance, tall, silver-haired, wearing an expensive suit. When he embraces Linda, she melts against him with practiced familiarity. I press the shutter button repeatedly, documenting every moment as they disappear inside together. By week 3, the pattern is undeniable. I spread the evidence across my dining room table as Richard sits heavily in a chair. Photographs, credit card statements showing hotel charges from weekends when Linda claimed to be visiting her sister, property records for the Oakwood Heights apartment, purchased 5 years ago under a limited liability company that traces back to Linda. This one was taken at Ristorante Milano last Friday, I say, sliding a particularly damning photo toward him. Linda and her silver-haired companion, his hand cupping her face as they lean across a candlelit table. Middle of the day, not even trying to hide. Richard's hands shake slightly as he arranges the photos in chronological order. 30 years, he whispers. 30 years. I watch him carefully, uncertain whether this final betrayal might break him completely. Instead, his spine straightens. We need to confront them. Both of them. You're sure? I need to see their faces when they can no longer deny the truth. His determination surprises me. This has to be my way, Sienna. I consider his request, then offer a strategic alternative. What about dinner? Neutral territory, but private enough. Somewhere we control the situation. Richard nods slowly. Yes, a family dinner. 2 days later, I make reservations at Emilio's, asking for the small private room in the back. I've hidden a voice recorder under the centerpiece. Richard has another in his jacket pocket. We take no chances with the truth this time. Linda arrives precisely at 7, perfectly composed in cashmere and pearls. Her smile freezes momentarily when she sees me sitting beside Richard, but she recovers quickly. Sienna, what a surprise. Her voice drips false warmth as she kisses Richard's cheek. She doesn't offer me the same courtesy. Vanessa follows minutes later, her makeup carefully applied to highlight a vulnerable innocence she's never possessed. She avoids looking directly at me. How was yoga this week? Richard asks Linda casually after we've ordered. Your instructor Marcus, isn't it? He must be very good. Linda's fork pauses halfway to her mouth. My instructor is Jennifer, darling. I've told you that. Really? Because I've been wondering. Richard takes a deliberate sip of water. How long have you been sleeping with him? The entire table freezes. Linda's face goes blank for one telling moment before outrage replaces shock. What are you talking about? This is absurd. Her voice rises sharply. Mom, what's going on? Vanessa looks between them, confusion giving way to calculation. Richard slides a single photograph across the white tablecloth. Linda stares at it, color draining from her face. I wasn't. She snatches up the photo, but Richard produces another. 30 years, Linda. 30 years of lies. You're spying on me? Linda sputters, turning to me with hatred. You did this. You've always tried to turn him against us. Us? Richard's voice cuts through her accusations. So you and Vanessa are a team against Sienna? Like when you planned to take her house? Vanessa's gasp is genuine this time. Mom, you promised he wouldn't find out about that part. The admission hangs in the air, damning and final. Around us, diners at nearby tables pretend not to listen while straining to hear every word. Linda's perfect facade crumbles completely. Those photos prove nothing, she insists, voice rising. You're misinterpreting everything. Richard silently slides his phone across the table. He presses play on a video Linda and her lover entering the apartment, his hand possessively on the small of her back. You followed me? Linda's face contorts with rage. This is invasion of privacy. Like when you invaded Sienna's home? Richard's voice remains steady. Or when you invaded our marriage vows for the past 7 years? Vanessa jumps to her mother's defense. Dad, you can't possibly believe this garbage. Mom would never. Stop, Vanessa. Linda cuts her off sharply. No, let her talk. I say, leaning forward. Let her explain why she told you I was selfish for not giving up my house when she has a perfectly good apartment she could have offered. Vanessa's mouth opens, then closes. Her eyes dart to her mother in panic. What apartment? Richard asks quietly. I slide another document across the table. The one Linda owns through her LLC. The same building where she meets Marcus. Heads turn at nearby tables. A waiter hovers uncertainly, then retreats. We were going to sell it, Vanessa blurts out, desperate to salvage something. That's why we needed Sienna's house temporarily. She reaches for her mother's hand. Tell him, Mom. Tell him it was just until the sale went through. Linda pulls her hand away, eyes narrowing at her daughter's betrayal. The apartment Marcus pays for? Richard asks, piecing it together. The one he thinks is your little love nest? He doesn't know about Vanessa's plan to sell it from under him, does he? Linda's silence is damning. You were never going to give it back, Richard says to Vanessa, realization dawning. You and your mother plan to take Sienna's house permanently. Around us, conversations have stopped entirely. Every eye in the restaurant watches our family implode. Richard sits perfectly still amid the destruction, a strange dignity settling over him as he watches the elaborate fiction of his life collapse. 30 years of deception unravel in public view, leaving nothing but hard truth between us. When a lifetime of lies finally unravels, who deserves forgiveness? I kneel in the fresh soil of my garden, pressing seedlings into the earth with dirt-stained fingers. 6 months since the invasion, and I'm finally reclaiming every inch of this house as mine. The late afternoon sun warms my back as I plant rows of lavender where Linda once stood, declaring ownership of my property. There's poetry in that, I think, beauty growing where bitterness once stood. Inside, the house breathes differently now. I've rearranged furniture, repainted walls, replaced the doorbell that once announced unwelcome visitors. Small changes that erase their presence inch by inch. The security system's small green light blinks steadily in the corner of each room, a constant reminder that my boundaries are now technologically enforced. Last weekend, I spent hours reorganizing photo albums. Some pictures I removed completely, the forced family portraits where my smile never reached my eyes. Others I framed and hung prominently, Mom and me at my college graduation, Emma and I celebrating my house closing. For the first time since moving in, peace permeates every corner of this space. My sanctuary, recovered. The neighborhood grapevine keeps me updated on the aftermath, whether I want the information or not. Linda moved in with her lover, who quickly discovered that supporting her taste for luxury wasn't as exciting as their hotel rendezvous. She calls Richard weekly now, desperate for financial help he can no longer provide. Vanessa's pregnancy lie collapsed along with her other schemes. She's staying at a women's shelter after burning bridges with all her potential fathers. Without Richard's support and Linda's strategic planning, her manipulation tactics prove surprisingly ineffective against strangers who haven't been groomed to enable her. And Richard, that's the unexpected twist. The divorce proceedings exposed decades of financial deception. Linda had been systematically draining their accounts for years, preparing for an exit Richard never saw coming. Now he lives in a small one-bedroom apartment across town, working honest hours at an accounting firm that hired him despite the scandal. There's a dignity in his reduced circumstances that was absent in his previous prosperity. My therapist says I'm making exceptional progress. Twice monthly sessions have taught me that boundaries aren't selfish, they're necessary infrastructure for a healthy life. I've joined a support group for adult children of narcissistic parents, where stories worse than mine remind me how strong we all are, surviving and rebuilding. The neighbors who witnessed the invasion have become unexpected allies. Mrs. Keller brings homemade bread on Sundays. Mr. Peterson keeps an eye on my house when I travel for work. These connections feel more authentic than 30 years of forced family ties. I keep the letter I wrote to my younger self in my nightstand drawer. The one explaining that the little girl waiting by the window wasn't abandoned because she was unlovable, but because Richard couldn't recognize true value. I haven't decided if I'll ever send it to him. Some truths serve us better when they remain private. Every month since the collapse, a handwritten apology arrives from Richard, never demanding a response, never asking for money or shelter or forgiveness. Just acknowledgement of specific wrongs and the pain they caused. Last week brought a birthday card the first in 25 years with nothing inside but, "I'm proud of who you've become without my help." We meet occasionally at Denny's neutral territory, with convenient exits and witnesses. Our conversations remain carefully bounded. We don't discuss Linda or Vanessa. We don't pretend decades of absence can be erased with coffee and pie. We simply practice being two adults who share DNA and damaged history, searching for whatever honest connection might be possible. I've established clear terms for our tentative relationship. No surprise visits. No financial discussions. No attempts to make me responsible for his emotional well-being. Holidays remain mine to spend with the family I've chosen, not the one I was born into. Richard accepts these boundaries without complaint, seeming almost relieved to have clear guidelines after a lifetime of Linda's shifting expectations. Tonight, I'm hosting a small gathering, friends from work, neighbors, members of my support group. The doorbell rings precisely at 7. Through the security camera, I see Richard standing on the porch, a small gift bag in hand, waiting patiently to be admitted or turned away according to my choice. I open the door. "Thank you for including me," he says, handing me a carefully wrapped package containing a garden trowel with my name engraved on the handle. Throughout the evening, he makes no attempts to dominate conversations or claim unearned authority. He listens more than he speaks, asks genuine questions of my friends, refills water glasses without being asked. As guests begin to leave, he helps clear dishes without presumption, then pauses at the kitchen counter where this all began. "You've taught me what family should be," he says quietly. "Not ownership, not obligation, just respect and choices freely made." I load the dishwasher, considering his words. When I finally look up, I'm surprised by the smile that feels natural on my face. In this house that I built, with boundaries I've defended and relationships I've chosen, I am finally completely home.